Welcome to the most. The ghosts still have me a little bit. You're going to hear all about my journey right this weekend, and we're going to carry on. We're back. We're back. Okay, so
so what happened?
Oh no, I knew you'd ask me.
What happened down there in the basement?
It was a trauma. It was a trauma. You know, I had all my tech ready. I had gotten special setup so that I could, you know, be like tech cool and use my iPhone as a camera. And I mean, what's fun is, you know, my mom has collected a lot of old stuff over the years, and I had this old school desk that I was actually set up with. And so whatever happens, whatever ghosts I end up hearing talking to me, we're still going to stick through, and I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to stick around. But I didn't do it on purpose at the end of the stream. Well, I'm really tech good, you know. Yes. So we could name it Spooky Chat. I did everything correct. It was entirely the ghost's fault.
It was.
And if you believe that, you're not pushing me hard.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly. Like, can I tell everyone what happened to you? I mean, you've given me ghost stories, but what exactly happened down there in the basement? Do you want to reveal to the people?
I traveled back in time. I traveled back in time. That was it. To freshman year in physics.
It's too much lived experience.
No.
You can't be time traveling.
I clearly was, because I was down there in the basement where I did all that. I bragged on camera. Did you hear me doing it? I did my calculus homework down there when I was in high school, because I was, of course, in calculus. And I think I even took AP calculus. I'm pretty sure I did pretty well on it, because I went to Rice University, which... which when my parents were there was called the Rice Institute, but they were I'm an alumni kid. They were the last class to graduate as the Institute, because it had been like this major like tech school, and did a lot of engineering and architecture and everything. When I was there, it was called Rice University.
I think you paint the picture to everyone that you've graduated from a tech university, and yet our stream cut out for a very, very interesting little reason, didn't it?
I had no idea what you were talking about. It was ghost. As a freshman at Rice University in 1982, I don't think I was in honors physics, but I definitely wasn't in the, you know, physics for arts students, because I was gonna be an astronaut. Did I tell you that? This is all gonna be topical to our vending machine
changing
people.
The subject. She doesn't want to tell you all what happened.
Why should I want to?
And I'm going to out you.
You're trying to out me. Why are you trying to out me? That we're gonna do the tech
Maybe
right?
I forgot to plug something in.
I've got my earphones in. I've got my power cable this time.
Plugged in today?
I get my power cable plugged in today.
Miss Rice University?
Miss Rice University. So, you know, my first year in physics, we did mechanics in the autumn. And if you've done
the electrical circuits?
Did we? Maybe in the spring?
Mm-hmm.
I did really well in my tests in electrical circuits.
Uh-huh.
All of the...
Did they have many practical classes in those?
We did. We had lab.
Uh-huh.
In addition to the lectures and the exams, we had physics lab.
They explained that plugs go into the wall socket.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was we had oscilloscopes. We had
He doesn't want to tell you all. He doesn't want to tell you all what really happened in the basement.
What really happened in the basement? What really happened?
And I'm trying to be gentle.
I am.
This woman is one of the most brilliant intellects alive, and yet
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, in my opinion, struggled with something very basic.
Yes. Right. So, you dragged it out of me. I used the wrong power adapter last week.
I'm worrying about it being the Freemasons cutting the stream.
You know, it was. It was.
I'm going to get thwarted because I'm talking about magical obelisks. She didn't plug in the power adapter.
My power adapter. Oh,
yes.
Oh, that's better. Okay, so see, the most basic thing.
I want to hear about the power outage problem.
My true complete failure in physics.
Yes.
Which I did go on the next year to do differential equations. I got an A+ in differential equations. I did. Mm-hmm. And I did vector calculus that next spring, and I don't remember what I got in that one. I'm not sure I did as well in vector calculus. I like drawing all the pictures. I'm really good on paper.
Did the calculus help you?
So what I learned in physics the first year was as good as I was at doing all of those proofs, which I do think is actually topical to what made me a good historian. I was very, very good at doing all the physics proofs, all the trigonometry proofs, all the vector calculus and differential equation proofs and stuff. I wasn't so good at actually getting the circuits. What was hilarious, and I realized this last week, I was like, fail. What happened to me in physics my first year in freshman physics was I did really fine in all the labs because I had this great lab partner. He was really good at setting up all of the circuits when we were doing the experiments, and I, wrote them up and I understood them and stuff. But in the final for the practicum, we were presented with some they were embarrassingly easy equations. I could tell that. What I couldn't do was get the right readings on any of the meters to prove that I knew that those were really easy equations.
When you're saying there were ghosts in the basement, what you really mean is you're haunted by the memory of a failed practicum.
Yeah.
That it was repeated last week when our stream cut out because you didn't pay attention in physics.
Maybe. I certainly didn't pay attention enough to understand the difference between the power adapter that I use on my iPad, which is basically pretty low key, versus the power adapter that I'm supposed to use on my laptop, which apparently can charge a laptop faster than the power adapter that you use for your iPad. And I had plugged in the wrong one. Because they both use the same little, like lightning thingies, or maybe it's not lightning, maybe it's micro USB. I don't know. Apple keeps changing their adapters. I just plug stuff in. It's pretty.
I was just thinking, you've just proved absolutely that you're female with that statement. It's pretty. I plug it in.
We had Apple in college too, because Apple, my sophomore year, my junior year, I said I was in physics 82, 83, and then I was never in physics again. Maybe I should have been. But
ran screaming from the physics school.
I did. I ended up being a very good historian because I was good at proofs, just not plugging things in. Apple came to Rice very early on, right? We had my first Apple was one of their little desktops with 512K RAM. I can't even load a picture on 512K. Can you imagine?
I'm trying to imagine.
I went from learning to type, which I mentioned last week, learning to type on the manual typewriter in that basement, to taking typing lessons the summer after I graduated from high school, and we learned to type on the IBMs, and I got a Smith Corona. The fancy thing I could do with that Smith Corona was correct with this. I could do the motion because I had to do it. This correcting cartridge, right? So you could either use little strips or whiteout or these cartridges in and out, in and out. And I had to type on the electric typewriter my papers for freshman and sophomore year. But then Apple came along and they had these amazing machines that you could type into and to do corrections. You didn't have to do anything physical. You could just backspace.
You were digitized.
I was digitized very early there. And my mom, back before I got to Rice and the Apple, my mom had actually bought us a Texas Instrument desktop, and I remember programming things in pixels. I was going to do computer programming and stuff until that freshman physics lab.
So you remember the way back time before computers?
I remember the way back time before personal computers were the normal thing that everybody was working on. Yeah.
And now you're streaming from your mother's basement.
And now I'm streaming from my mother's basement.
And not plugging in your device.
So no wonder we got caught in a time loop, and I couldn't figure out what to do.
It's confusing. Time travel's hard.
Well, but interesting.
You're doing a lot of traveling too, so maybe. I don't know, we'll let you off the hook.
Do roll. All right. So Mel is here. Part 2. Yeehaw. Yes. Okay. Andrew J., welcome. Good evening. Standing Outside Bear. Good evening, Dr. Brown. I've really enjoyed your podcast so far. Thank you so much for sticking with us as we were learning all the tech. You see.
She aced physics.
I aced physics. It's not the practicum. Right. Manual. Woo. Standing Outside Bear, I hear. Fine. Andrew J., USB-C. Is that what so Andrew, that's the little one is the USB-C. Jordan Mon. Frankly, this is proof one needs to be a rocket scientist to handle Apple products correctly. Now, you say this, this is brilliant because, of course, Rice University owns the land NASA sits on, for real. So Rice also, they did when I was there, and I tell this as lore, I assume it's still true. They also owned the land that the Astrodome sits on, so the football stadium. Rice University is so closely tied to rocket science. Kennedy gave his "We're Going to the Moon" speech at Rice University in 1961. And he gave it in our football stadium, which was hilariously huge because when my parents were there, Rice actually fielded a football team that could challenge the other Texas teams. That was certainly not the case when I was in college, and we were mainly known for the marching band that did not march. They just ran from formation to formation because it couldn't be bothered to practice formation marching. They called themselves the marching
band in that case.
They called themselves the Marching Owl Band, the mob, and they dress in fedoras, and there's a lot of Rice stories in there. But when Apple was giving us Rice kids the opportunity to buy their products and get us hooked for life, I did go to Olivetti for a bit when I was in graduate school in Cambridge, and that's all they had. They had the Olivetti Italian, and then I switched. Okay, anyway, I came back because I do actually like Apple aesthetic. Clearly, Apple was trying to get its way into the moon shots. Mm-hmm. Burning Pitch. Does it still take 3 tries to plug it in correct? Ethers are. Boy, I tuned in at the right time. Well, Ethers are. If you don't help me with my electronics this weekend, I'm stuck because you're driving me. Come to BaseCon if you're not signed up already. Watch for videos if hopefully we can make it. Inquisitor Bear. Hey, is this your Rings of Power fan stream? Just kidding. We have, and love your work, Rachel. Thank you. We actually have a plan to do a Galadriel stream probably next week because we need to think about this girl power thing. Rainwater Bear says Rice only owned Clear Lake land temporarily as a part of a land transaction. If you know more about that, you can explain to me because what I mainly know, the kinds of things that the tour guides tell the prospective students, things on campus, and so it could all be fake. It could all be mythological. For example, I wasn't aware that William Marsh Rice was a Mason until I was there in April this year, and my host at University of St. Thomas, the Catholic school, was saying, they're Masonic there, and I'm like, what? I didn't know that. He says, yes, look at the shield, look at the heraldry for Rice. It's like these owls. I'm like, yeah, we had owls on campus, right? And he says, no, it's got the Masonic diagram there. Hoot, hoot. Hoot, hoot. All the smart people, except for the ones that can't plug stuff in electronically. Out of the
they have to stay in the basement, or at least they should.
They should stay in their mom's basement until they can figure out how to plug a circuit in. Maybe the ones that can't plug in circuits end up working in finance or something, right? Missouri is an interesting place because I have family history there because my grandparents. I could give my whole family history this time. My grandparents went to school. I say grandparents, both of them. My grandfather and my grandmother met because the whole family was going to this college in Western Missouri called Park College. It was Presbyterian. Very highly educated women in my family. Not grabbled.
Somebody failed
physics. I did so badly on that exam. I turned in a blank piece of paper. I could tell what the answer. It's like, and I did try for a bit, trying to figure out how can I just put the answers in that I know I should be getting. It's like I would get readings off of the it was measuring resistance across something. It was so simple. They were so embarrassingly simple, and the only thing I could do was tell how wrong my answers were. I couldn't figure out how to get the right ones. I'm back from my road trip. I'm going to be on another little trip with Ethers who figured out the tech on that yet. And you can't rely on me.
For the love of God, someone supervise her.
Please help me. Right.
Make sure it's all plugged in.
Make sure it's all plugged in. In any case, hopefully we have more to talk about. Now you'll have much more of the backstory on Draco Alchemicus. So if we're talking about that at base.con, that will be posted, and we will be back.